All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. I'll go ahead and just add, if you guys have any questions at all, just go ahead and add them in the chat feature. If you go to the bottom of your Zoom call, there's a little chat box. If you just click on that, what we're going to do is save all of our questions just for the end. But if you have any questions, if you want to go ahead and input them there, just so you don't forget them, we'll address all of those at the end of the meeting. But to get started, just hello and welcome. Thank you everybody for joining. We appreciate you taking your time out of your day to jump on this call with us. My name is Michaela Hines. I'm the Client Success Manager with POSIM, and I'm here with some of the experts from the quilt and needle art industry. We've got Lori Harsh, President and founder of the Fabric Shop Network. We've got Jill, who is the owner of Inspired to Sew, Leanne, CEO and founder of Stitchcraft Marketing. And today we're just going to discuss the most difficult obstacles that you guys are facing and what's next in the quilt and needle art industry and what's next for retail with all of the craziness going on in the world. So what we're going to start off with is a question that I'm sure many of you are probably asking right now is, how do you keep customers coming back, especially right now during the pandemic and when people aren't really wanting to get out into the world? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Jill here. She's got 22 years plus of retail experience in this industry. She's absolutely amazing and we appreciate her coming on to talk today, but I'll go ahead and just turn it over to her and let her start talking.
Thank you, Michaela, for that introduction. 22 years doesn't mean that I have all the answers, so let me put that out there. I will say that you know, when I'm reading things like when people are talking to us about customer retention, how am I going to have enough revenue to get through you know, pandemic, all of these features. First off, I do, and I've been asked this a lot, is that, you know, what was it like after 9/11? You know, and at first, honestly, when pandemic hit, I really thought that that's what it was going to be, is that within, after 9/11, we had a lot of changes in our business structure and how we were doing it. And they actually happened like weeks before 9/11, change of ownership. I took over the business entirely on my own. And so we were facing a lot of changes anyway. But after 9/11, we went through about 3 to 4 weeks of frozen. You know, we were all afraid the world was going to end. And as pandemic has unpacked, first off, I want to say to you, if you're still in business today, you have achieved something that is far past 9/11. Your resilience has paid off, but I will totally applaud. You are in fatigue. You are in pandemic fatigue, and you are exhausted, and you're not sure about the next steps. I do have a lot of hope for this. 9/11, when that happened, you know, over the next year, our business doubled. And frankly, we didn't really do as much to earn that as it happened. And people went home and they started sewing. So as pandemic unpacked, myself and several of my close friends talked about this and said, you know, we are looking at 2021 being a big improvement. So if you've been in business for not very long, I want you to hang on to some hope. And I want you to, there's some things I'm going to talk to you about customer retention, how you go over that. How do I know this? In 2008, our community experienced massive flooding, and it impacted us for about 3 months solidly. We've been through several economic downturns. This summer, on August 10th, our community was hit by a derecho, which is called a land hurricane. Shut us down. We had no internet for 8 weeks, no electricity for 2.5 weeks. So, you know, where are we at right now? Are we going to meet goal for the end of the year? Probably not, but we're going to work hard to come close. How do you keep up the hope? How do you keep up customer retention? How do you keep impactful? I will tell you that one of the things that you need to do is you're probably, you know, I think it's great that people are doing Facebook Live. I think it's great that people are putting sales out there. They're improving their infrastructure for their digital footprint. And I think that those are really important things. But customer loyalty really is coming from improving the team that you have. Now, if you are all by yourself and you are the only team, I would strongly encourage you to start looking at a way to bring somebody in. Our team at Inspired to Sew, we employ we have about 21 people. Most of them are full-time. And before you think, oh my gosh, I can't even be at that place. I have been right where you are right now. The town I started my business in was 3,500 people, is 3,500 people. And, you know, I did run the business by myself with some part-timers for a long time. And my biggest encouragement to you is that you need to start, like our team that works for us, most of them did not come to us with sewing experience. We do better off to hire people who have who are customer service oriented, who are going to be able to be trained in the way that we're going to be doing this. So when we talk about building customer loyalty, all of us are using Facebook Live right now, and you all have this big to-do list that you keep watching somebody else, and you keep saying, I wish I could do it like, you know, Karen Taylor is doing, or, there's a whole bunch of people that are doing amazing stuff right now. My first recommendation is stop comparing yourself, shut off the noise. Quit thinking that Missouri Star is having your lunch. Quit thinking that you are losing your business because of fabric.com. As soon as you start down a path of fatalistic thinking, you are denying those good customers that are walking in your door the chance to find the best version of you and the best version of your store. And we hear it again and again. In the state of Iowa, we have 135 quilt shops, and we get together once a year for all Iowa Shop Hop. And the goal is to get people into all of those stores. When we listen to customers, they love the store with 3 cats and, fabric all over the place, and you have to go knock on the door to get the owner to come out. This is experiencing retail America at its very best, at its very finest. So when you are looking at how to keep that customer experience going, you need to step back and say, I need to quit hiring, quote, experts in sewing. I need to hire people that can take my message and they can pass it out to the team. Write out your core values. I'm talking about, this is the simplest thing you can do. Core values. For us, some of them have changed. One of them is procedural integrity. That means that if we handle a return this way and we talk to the customer in a certain way about that return, not shaming them, everybody that works for me has to do it that way. What does that mean? That means instead of you taking over that customer return that comes in, you train that person how to do this in a very kind and generous way. You train them with an open heart. When we are talking like this, we have lost 2/3 of our communication avenue. So as you're talking to your team, when you get back and meet with them again, take it and say, are you willing to change along with me? Are you willing to grow along with me? Because I want you to be part of this. When we laid people off and the pandemic hit, I went to the managers and I said, who are the people that you want to, we're going to lay off this many this day, this many this day. And then I met with them afterwards and I said, all right, the people that were easy for you to figure out who you laid off, I want you to make a list of what they need to improve in. I mean, we're all lying to ourselves if we think that our team is carrying out what we expect them to do just because they watch us. You need to be intentional. You need to be kind. You need to be intentional. You need to listen to them. So a feature that we do, we need to make sure they know the products. You bought that product, you brought it in the back door, and you're hoping that Susie that works for you is going to carry it off with the same amount of enthusiasm because you just bought 18 of it. And you're like, what are we going to do with 18? And you're going to go, and you know what you're going to do? I know what you're going to do. You're going to go out and you're going to sell it yourself. And you're going to put it on Facebook Live. And Susie's going to watch you and she's go, I could never do that. If she can't do that, she shouldn't be working for you. And so what does that mean? Am I saying go fire everybody? No, you need to first try to train them because chances are good you didn't tell them what the job really is. We talk to people about, like, as far as being social with customers, there are a couple of kinds of social. One is you like people that are just friendly. So we have a rule in our store, you never talk about the weather. Never talk about the weather. The person comes in, and what we see in Iowa, if there's a snowstorm and people come in, they came in despite the snowstorm. They don't want to talk about how hard it was to come in because otherwise they come in, they're distracted, they start worrying, and they head out. Your job in our stores is like, thanks so much for coming in to Inspire to Sell. Where can we direct you? Don't talk about the snowstorm. Don't talk about the weather. Don't talk about other quilt shops. Don't badmouth. If they say, well, I was to so-and-so shop or yarn shop or whatever, and don't do that. First off, train your people to be attentive to the customers. if they can't do that, what you need to start doing, I mean, the royal goodness of pandemic is you now get to say to people, I want to ensure that we're in business for after the pandemic. Therefore, I need you to do these practices. If that's outside of your skill set, this might not work for us. I know you don't like letting people go, but before you do that, again, make sure you train them. So Monday through Friday at our store, we have a program called Sew More at 4, and it's Facebook Live. All of my team do this, and we have demonstrations of this product. So it's not just hold the product and say, buy it because it's on sale, do this. It's about, let me unpack this and show you what it's about. Yes, you will probably sell some things, but I've had some people watch us do this and they say, you guys are all about education. Your job is to be an educator and an enthusiastic person, and then they will quit asking you what price it is. If you do your job, if you follow up with proper features of the product and how it's going to benefit the customer, you know something about the customer, and that's your team's job. If they do that, they will put a tip in your tip jar. And what that means is that they will buy this product. Now, not all of them, some of them will go out on Amazon and they will look it up and they will buy it there. Just suck it up, it's gonna happen. Is it going to cause you to lose your business? No. Let's go back to the first thing I said. Quit watching other businesses that you think are having your lunch. If you really believe that, you're out of business already. The great thing about what's happening right now is pricing online is going up for all things. People want this face-to-face contact. They want this intimate relationship. Yes, they want a good deal, but more than that, they want this experience. So this is about an experience. And I'm going to tell you, and you can come back and look at this video in a year from now. In a year from now, if you invest in your people, pandemic time is a time to invest in your people to get them to be loyal. So how do we get our team to do Sew More at 4? Just so you feel good about yourself and you know that we're just like everybody else, we put a chart up and it says Sew More at 4. Yesterday morning, they said, we don't have anything for Sew More at 4. They came and they said that to me. We don't have anything for Sew More at 4. My old self would have said, it's okay, I'll take care of it. And I didn't. And within an hour, I had 2 people volunteer to take it over. Now, I'm not real happy about that because they don't really have something well thought out. But their presentation is a 15-minute presentation. 90% of the time, it's a product that they needed to learn something about. My former employment was a school teacher. And when you have to teach something to somebody is when you learn it best. So why would I put my team in front of people about products they don't know? You don't want a presentation that goes like this. These come in a container and they have a yellow lid. And then they're reading the features. When people are in performance mode, they have to come up with reasons. So before our people do Sew More at 4, we have a private Facebook group for just our team. They can practice it there. They ask for feedback. We actually just did yesterday, we gave $50 gift cards to people on our team who have been doing this for the last couple of weeks. Why? We wanted to change that behavior so everybody else would do it. Are we going to give a $50 gift card every time? No. You want your team to understand that they are there to raise up that customer experience. So when I'm asked about loyalty programs and customer experience, when we look at this, what it's about is that you don't have to necessarily build a, here's your punch card, here's, you need to come back in because we're not doing well in business. They're going to come back in because they feel important to your business and they get educated and they get fed. At our store, we talk a lot about the sitcom Cheers. And for some of you who remember, when Norm came in, everybody at Cheers said, what? Hey, Norm. Okay. You looked around the bar. I looked around the bar and I thought, who else did they say hello to that way? We should treat every customer like their Norm. And here's why this is important, especially in creative industries. Most of our people, while people out there think that our customers travel in gangs, they don't. Most people come in by themselves. You want them to connect to you, to your message, to your mission. But you as the owner or the manager need to make sure that they're connecting to all your team members. This takes a vulnerability. You have to trust them. My people don't always do this exactly the way I would do it, but you need to trust them to do this, and you need to let them know no amount of practicing is going to make them perfect, and they're going to create the best experience. I would recommend you look into some programs. One that we use, I really like Bob Phibbs and Bob Neigen, Whiz Bang and Retail Doc. Both are really good programs. Both are really good investments, and they're training programs for the customer service experience. Your job coming out of this, don't go for straight from this and go sign up for those. First, ask yourself, are my people able to meet customers? But before you go in and start firing people, ask yourself if you have trained them to meet them. And so that's really where our customer followership comes from. That's where our loyalty comes from. So some other pieces to that, be open to feedback. Now, granted, right now with pandemic, we are all getting more feedback from customers than we want. I will tell you that Fab Shop Network we talk about this a lot. We're all getting way too much feedback. And, you know, you have to kind of be able to do triage on feedback. Is it feedback that you need to call your friend and cry about it? Then do that. And I've got a couple of my friends that I see on this list that are I call you and we talk about this. Is it feedback that you really, I mean, like we talk about bad reviews and good reviews with our whole team. And we have literally had people say, I'm responsible for that one. That customer came in and I didn't talk to her. And, you know, you have to build a trust relationship with your team that they understand this is not a matter of you sitting down and writing a performance review for them. This is a matter of us working together as a team because we're human. We make mistakes. So be open to that. The other one is that, you know, creating concise demonstrations. So when I talk to you about that demonstration that we do with our team, that we have them do on a regular basis, those are short because people don't have much time. Plus, when they're sitting with the mask on, they don't have the attention span that we normally can do. But what you're looking at is you're not saying this is about buy this, buy this, buy this. People will buy it because you support it. Now, when I look at this, and I mean, there's some amazing Facebook Lives and presentations out there that are selling mountains of stuff. And I'm so honored to watch these. I'm honored to watch these people succeed. I am celebrating with every one of you. Our goal in our company is that we know that the foot traffic, and we've seen it already, the foot traffic is improving significantly into our store. And what I want to do is I want to make sure when they read that review or when they check us out or when they find us somehow, that when they walk in the door, that the customer experience is consistent, it's kind, it's welcoming. And you know, the first step with that goes back to the first thing I said to you. You need to practice some self-care. You need to, if you do nothing else after this talk, is sit down with your spouse or your business partner or yourself and write down the 5 things that are most important to you, that are most important about the customer experience. Now, one of those, I will tell you, the biggest thing is that you need to generate enough money to pay them, to pay you, and to pay your vendors. That's your underlying, that is not even in that 5. If you do those 5 things or 6, the money will come. It will happen. Now, if you're backwards, you know, in this, that's a whole different discussion. But if you want to keep a good turn of product, you have to make sure that you have people on your team that are able to meet that without you holding a carrot out in front of them and say, chase this and then I'll give you a raise. Don't do that to them. Treat them with respect, treat them with dignity. You'll find that people actually don't leave jobs because of money. Now, sometimes, yes, they do, of course, but what really motivates them is do they work for a person who has the integrity of what they signed on with you to do? That's the most important piece. So when you look at who you are, you know, go to your team, talk to them about that, level with them. I think that's the most important thing that you can do. Celebrate progress with the team. Sometimes, just like I said, is progress for us is that who's been doing Facebook Lives and practicing them. That was something that we celebrated with. Teaching and presenting are actually, like when you talk about education and demonstrations are the exact same thing. All a class is it's an extended product demonstration. Spoiler alert. Yes, we do virtual classes. I have a love-hate relationship with them. I think that people still, I mean, engagement is tough, and I think it's going well. But honestly, what we're seeing is we started running on-site events again, and we are filling them. Now, filling them means instead of having our classroom full, it's less than half full. But people are coming in because they need to be out. They need to have that comforting. It's good that I think it's really great that we have support with Facebook and with social media to be able to improve our visual imprint. But, you know, when we look at this and we say, where are we going for our future? We will have a hybrid of virtual and face-to-face. And I believe that that's what we're seeing in retail. So in summary, just take care of yourself, make sure your mission is clear, make sure your team is ready, because I'm going to give you the hope. 2021 is going to rock your socks off. I really believe that. If you invest now is investment time. Now is time to start trying some things out. Customers have a lot more latitude and they have a lot more grace. So there you go, Michaela.
Thank you so much, Jill. We appreciate that. Everything she said, obviously, we agree with. We appreciate, I know you said at the beginning you don't have all the answers, and I don't think anybody has all the answers right now. Obviously, we're in some unprecedented times, but we appreciate you sharing the knowledge that you do have with us. You know, just to reiterate, everything you said is 100% correct. We call it head trash over here at Retail Success. Just, you know, kind of being negative with yourself and saying, you know, I could never do that. And, you know, whether you think you can or you can't, at the end of the day, you're 100% right. If you think you can't, you probably aren't going to be able to, but if you think you can, you're going to work harder to get it done. So definitely agree with that. So we appreciate everything that you shared with us just then. Now I'm going to give the floor over to Leanne. Leanne, what tricks do you guys have with your marketing and sales experience when it comes to attracting new business?
Thanks, Michaela, and thank you, Jill, for all that helpful information as well. So I think that I'm going to chat about a concept that we talk about commonly here at Stitchcraft Marketing. And for those that don't know, Stitchcraft Marketing, we are a niche agency and we specialize just in creative companies. So all of our clients are in the fabric or the fiber space. And one of the things that we talk about almost all the time is what we call our know, like, and trust funnel. So I want to talk to you about 3 parts of that know, like, and trust funnel, because I think it is going to help you come up with a framework to think about how to attract new business on a consistent basis. And I'll give you a couple of different examples with that. So we all know as consumers, when we move through a consumer or buying experience, we all move through these 3 phases. So we start with the know part of our know, like, and trust funnel, where we're learning about who that business is, what they're all about. Then we move into what I call the like part of the funnel, where our customers are trying to have an affinity with our story and our brand and what we're offering. And then they move into the trust part of the know, like, and trust funnel, where that's where the conversions really happen. And that's really what we're all working towards, is to get our customers into the trust part of the know, like, and trust funnel. That is where they are returning back to you. They, you know, they buy from you no matter what it is. I think a good example of this is my teenager, Sophie. You know, anything that Apple introduces, she buys it. She doesn't even, you know, she doesn't really know what the new iPhone is going to have. She goes and buys it, or she's got to have the earbuds because it's Apple. And that's what you really want to achieve with your company and your brand, is that level of trust, because again, that's where conversions happen. So 3 parts of that, I'm going to go through it really, really quickly. So the first thing you can do in the know part of your funnel to attract brand new customers is to make sure that your website, and I always say specifically your About Us page, it's an often overlooked place on your website. Think about what your own consumer experience, when you're looking to, let's say, buy a brand new sewing machine, for example. And Jill, I'm going to throw you under the bus with an example of your shop. I'm going to go to Jill's website and I'm going to poke around and I'm going to see, you know, who is Jill? Who's her team? What are their missions? What is their philosophy? Is this the kind of business that I want to spend to $3,000 on a brand new sewing machine to work with Jill. So I'm going to go to Jill's About Us page and I want to see Jill's photo. I want to read about Jill's story. I want to see who Jill's employees are. And I'm going to feel a little bit more confident about buying from Jill because I learned on Jill's About Us page that every person on her staff is highly trained on customer service. And everybody in that store is going to be able to help me, not just Jill. So when you go to your website, I want you to go to your About Us page. Do you have your photo on there? And this is going to sound shocking, but do you have your name on your About Us page? So many companies I go to just have the name of the business. They don't say who owns the company or the first and last name of the owner or the team. If you're not comfortable putting yourself in the spotlight, then do a photo of your team and spotlight them. Make sure, again, you're telling your story. Why did you start your business? What motivates you? What makes you different? What makes you get out of bed in the morning? And include all of those things on your About Us page, because that is the first place people are going to go to try to learn more about who you are. So that's the know part of your funnel to attract brand new business. Make sure that's super strong. So then you move into the like part of your know, like, and trust funnel. And my tip here is going to be about creating evergreen content. Again, once I've decided that, hey, maybe So Inspired is a company I want to work with, I'm going to start looking for little pieces of, I'll call it affinity with Jill's company. I want to see that they might have hours that work well with me, or does she have blog content that's teaching me the skills of where I'm at in my sewing journey. And when I see those things on her social channels, in her newsletter, on her blog, then I move deeper into that like part of the funnel. I like Jill now. I like what her company's representing. I am really feeling connected to what she's teaching me and the style of her business. And again, like I mentioned, your blog, your newsletter, and all your social channels are places and opportunities for you to provide that kind of content. And when I say evergreen content, I'm really thinking about how busy you all are and how completely overwhelmed everybody is. So evergreen content means I want you to create content that is not necessarily always timely. Not, for example, 10 gift ideas for the 2020 holiday season. That's a great topic and you're going to get a lot of traffic from that. But over time, I'd like to see content that's more about basic skill building or how-tos that apply to everybody, because that's going to save you time in the long run, and you don't have to constantly be creating that content every time you turn around. So when people come back to your blog and they read that article on the top 10 tips to managing your sewing room, that's going to be relevant today and 5 years from now. And then lastly, the trust part of the funnel. I really think referral programs are one of the things that are most overlooked. We're entering an era where word of mouth referrals and people talking to other people is becoming more and more important. Again, think about your consumer experience and how completely overwhelmed you are with all the white noise coming into your inbox. You need to find people and sources that you trust. And a lot of times that's your friends and that's your family. And that might be somebody, like Jill. After I've developed that relationship with a shop or a business, I trust her. And so again, if I'm going to be slapping down $3,000 for an investment like a brand new sewing machine, it's only going to happen when I trust that business. So as a business owner, you can implement specific referral programs on like a formal basis. You might have seen, for example, if you buy a sewing machine from us and you refer a friend, we'll give you a $100 credit on classes, or, I'm sure you can think of tons of examples of where you've purchased something. I can think just a couple of weeks ago, I tried one of those home delivery Hello Fresh food services. And in the box was, a referral program. If you refer someone else to HelloFresh, you'll get a $25 coupon. So you can do something formal like that, but don't overlook the value of friends and family referrals. And I'll recommend a great book that I just read recently by Jay Baer. And Michaela, when I'm not speaking, I can slap that into the chat for everybody, but it's B-A-E-R, Jay Baer, and his book is called Talk Triggers. And the whole book is about how you can improve your business using this referral methodology, really capitalize on people's inclination to refer. And again, we all know how important that is. When friends and family tell us to buy something, we're more likely to do that. And I can personally attest to that because I did buy an expensive sewing machine in the last month, and I asked everybody, you know, do you like this brand? Do you like that brand? What are the problems you have with this kind of sewing machine or that kind of sewing machine? And I did a ton of research because I was making an investment, and I went to people I knew and liked. And in the end, I actually bought the same sewing machine that my sister has, because I thought, when I'm in trouble, I'm gonna FaceTime Beth and she's gonna help me fix that tangled sewing nest in my bobbin and so on. So again, don't overlook the value of referrals for your business. So hopefully, just a quick summary here, the know, like, and trust funnel, make sure that you're putting something into each of those buckets at different stages of your business. And I think you'll have a lot more success bringing in new business to your business. So thanks, Michaela.
No problem. And then it looks like Jill just had a question there. Should stores remove historical content that is not evergreen content from the email archives, Facebook posts if products or specials are not current?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jill. No, I don't think so. It's going to be more time that you probably don't have to spend on cleaning up and archiving. I would say Pinterest is one of the other places that I might recommend that you do curation of your boards, because it can get really cluttery. So once a year, go in and take a look at your Pinterest boards and do a curation and a cleanup on those. But you know, some of the other channels like Instagram and Facebook, those are going to be hierarchical scrolling. So you know, a Facebook post from a year ago isn't going to reappear at the top of the post and distract your new customers. Whereas on Pinterest, sometimes it does. So I wouldn't spend time on that. Just move forward and start creating good quality evergreen content moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Leanne. We appreciate that. And we'll be coming back to you
All
later
right.
for some other topics. But we appreciate that you obviously have a ton of knowledge in that industry. So we appreciate you taking your time to come out.
My pleasure.
That book that she was talking about, I did post the Amazon link in the chat in case anybody wants to check that out. It's called Talk Triggers. So that is in there in that chat feature, as well as her website if you want to take a look at that.
Thank you.
So that is there, but for now, we're going to go ahead and move on to Lori to discuss some modern selling channels. Lori, what advice can you give to businesses and owners who may feel overwhelmed by the idea of, you know, expanding into new channels right now? I think you're still muted, Lori. If you're trying to talk, we can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now? My apologies.
Yep, there you go. No, you're fine.
Okay, so let me start over. I'm Lori Harsh, and the Fabric Shop Network is my company. We are a retail trade organization for independent fabric and quilt retailers. We also publish Fab Shop News, and I'm excited to share that, and actually shocking to share when I think about it from another direction, that next year will be my 50th year in fabric retailing. So with that being said, I want to reiterate or say I second everything that Jill said about product training and training of employees. That really is where the customer experience and the longevity and the foot traffic comes from. And the more that you invest in that, the bigger your success will be year after year after year. I can't support that enough. So when she talks about 9/11, in 9/11, you know, we were just all starting to say, internet. Do I need to be on the internet? Do I want to be on the internet? Isn't that like taking on a whole other business? You know, so there were very big question marks, and there have been very big question marks really up till this year with the pandemic. And then all of the sudden, for everyone asking those questions, yes, we do. You know, I need to do this. I need to do this. So let's start at the beginning of doing that, because I'm sure there are many of you or some of you on the call that really haven't explored all the opportunities. And I want to just share, you know, in my 30s, as I used to travel and visit shops, I would in the evenings go to the mall. And the visits to the mall in the evenings caused a reoccurring dream. And that dream was, I would love to be the only person in this mall and be able to shop here 24/7. Anyone else have that experience? Maybe not. But here we are today. So fabric retailing fundamentals, or retailing fundamentals, actually really haven't changed. But what has changed is all the opportunities to take that customer experience and expand it online and continue to develop new relationships. And when you do that, there are some very key things that you need to keep in mind. First, you're creating new assets. And so when you create those assets, you need to focus on what you own and what you will continue to own. Very important. Developing those assets are really based on continuing with ongoing conversations with existing customers, and the word of mouth that Leanne talks about definitely travels to new customers as well. So as you create these new assets, you know, what's the result that you're looking for? And you need to think about that. You're going to get greater cash flow. There's always slow times in your store. There's always events or weather that impacts you that your online presence can carry you through. It's going to increase your profits, and the most important thing is it's going to add to your owner's compensation. And the biggest thing to always keep in mind in building that asset is the email address. You know, it's critical in the store that you're developing that list, that you have a local as well as an online email list. And then how does that email address factor into everything that you're going to do online? You know, starting with, we all started with that basic yellow page website, didn't we? Who we are, where we are, what we do, and how we do it. And then gradually some went on into e-commerce. And today, e-commerce is a must. You know, you have to be where the consumer is. And so as retailers, we look at it as retailing online is a sales tool for us. But our customers, it's a convenience, you know, and we need to think about it that way. And we need to be where we're convenient for the customer. So when we can create that excitement and that emotion that says, oh, I want, you know, they're there to buy from you right then and there. And they don't have to wait to come visit you on Tuesday when you're open. So it's really important to think about your e-commerce presence. You need to establish that first. And I'll tell you that I am a very big fan of Shopify. If you look at first, they are cutting edge, in my opinion, and they stay very current. The second thing you want to look at, well, let me reiterate. I'll just share an experience. I sat with the Quilt Sampler magazine the other evening looking at the stores that were featured in the fall, and I went to sign up on their e-newsletter list for each of them. And I was very surprised, I'm going to tie this back, I guess, very surprised to find that there was about 25% of them, a little more than that actually, that had no email list sign up on their website. So they were losing that opportunity to develop that long-term relationship with the customer. The second thing you want to make sure that you do have is a blog, as Leanne said. Really important to create that content that really drives the how-to, the product training, and the relationship. And if your employees can write that blog or portions of it, that just strengthens the relationship that you're building in your storefront. And then you want to move to social selling. And I use social selling in replacing the term social media, because again, when you're looking at all the different platforms that are available today, and I'm sure, you know, as the years go by, we're going to be adding more and more of them. So Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, you need to be on all of them. And I know that hurts to say that because we're all under such time pressure, but that really, you need to be on all of them. And you need to look at them again as, how am I going to develop that relationship? And how am I going to garner that email address? So in accomplishing both of those things, what do I need to do? Now, Facebook makes it really nice for us because you can put signing up for your newsletter or getting an email address right on your Facebook page. The other's not so easy, so you have to think about campaigns that you can offer that will help you achieve that. Show them how to do X, and if you would like X, go here and sign up to get it. The same thing holds true as if you're already on Facebook and you're enjoying all the success of Facebook Live, and comments sold is probably the app of preference. But am I garnering all those email addresses? Am I going to be able to benefit today and develop the relationship over a period of years with the customer? What am I doing to make that happen? When you're looking at social selling, especially in the creative industries, in the visual industries, you know, the social media industry talks about, it's all about video, it's all about video. And I will agree to that, maybe 50%, but more so, it's all about the visuals. It's the visuals that inspire. It's the visuals that make you, at a glance, say, I want. And it's that at a glance that makes you take action. You know, if you're clicking on a video, most of the time your attention span diminishes the longer the video is. And you have the potential of losing your opportunity to create that relationship with the customer. So it's just something to think about. Look at when you're looking at social selling, look at how the platforms have made it easy, or attempt to make it easy, to take one effort and take it multiple directions. You can program automatically to take Facebook to Instagram, and from Facebook you can also go to Twitter, so that you're minimizing your efforts. But also take it and look at it further. I'll use Facebook Live as the example. You can take your recording and move it to YouTube, Then once it's on YouTube, you can plan it in your newsletter that you're sending out, a minimum of once a month to drive more sales back to your e-commerce site. So think about the funnel and how you take advantage with the least amount of effort. Look at time management tools. Hootsuite's probably the noted the most. And then also look at selling apps. Like I said, Comment Sold is probably the #1 out there right now to simplify the process as well. Just make sure, again, in whatever your effort is online, that you're going after creating an asset for yourself. And that asset is the email address. Yes, it's the immediate sales. Yes, you want that. But long term, you need that email address to continue that relationship and those continual sales as the years go by. And then lastly, the thing that we probably consider the least online is marketplaces. And I would encourage, while I realize that the fees are high, and too high actually, you should all take a look at Etsy. And the reason you want to do that, the last number that stuck in my head as far as a customer base is 14 million people. And so you want that presence, you know, you want, I like to refer to marketplaces as apartment complexes, and everyone that comes to visit that apartment complex ideally is going to see your product and offers you a new opportunity for a relationship and more sales, more adding to your assets. And again, the bottom line is that's adding to your owner's compensation. Thank you.
Gotcha. That's a good one. For me personally, I love Etsy, but I just like you guys, I know that they charge you guys insane fees. So I look on Etsy a lot, just to find different companies who have products that I'm looking for, because there's so, especially on Etsy, there's so many different products, and it's a lot of stuff that's like, you know, custom made and things that, you just can't find anywhere else. But what I'll do is I'll go look on Etsy, to find a business that has what I want. And from there, I'll go to their website and actually order it off their website. Or if it's a local, you know, business, I can go and physically go to their store. So that's a really good one in my personal opinion. Even if you know, don't necessarily, obviously the fees are a little bit higher, but it can bring in new business. There's a particular store that I found on Etsy that sells dresses. And I found them probably 3 years ago. Their dresses are pricier. They run, you know, $100, $150, but I absolutely love them. And I found them on Etsy, and I've probably ordered 5 or 6 dresses from them since I found them a couple years ago through their actual website, just from finding them on Etsy. And I never actually ordered anything from them off of Etsy, but I definitely became a loyal customer from finding them on there, because their products are just, they're amazing quality, and they're beautiful dresses. So just as a kind of a touch point, if you guys wanted to have, you know, a personal, kind of a personal testimony on how that can help you out as a business.
So I've always found, Michaela, that it's for the creative industries, it's not about price. For the most part, it's not about price. It's always about inspiration. And once that emotion stirs in you from whatever it is you're seeing, and you're saying, I want, you buy.
Exactly.
If you can buy right then and there. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. I am more than happy to pay extra for an experience.
It's not about price.
A greater quality product.
Yes.
So I know.
I think we do put we have some kits on Etsy, and we've just started that this last year. And probably the biggest thing, like when Lori says the fees are high, I think I'd go back and say, let's take, the fees are not past 20% certainly. But if you look at that and you say, this is a salesperson that you're hiring that's off the floor. This is a commissioned salesperson.
that you're hiring with Etsy. We've had a lot of that business. The people who like us, we've been able to send them links for more pictures on certain products, and we've built followership. I would probably add one more to that, and I know this one will kind of really make you cringe a little bit, but we do sell like trade-in sewing machines on eBay. Because it's listed with our store name, people do find us, they come back and they ask, do you have new machines of this model? So, I mean, we've sold some, we put some things, some fabrics. I mean, these days I would say half, if I'm looking for a fabric that's an older fabric, probably a third of the time I see it on Etsy, the other third of the time I see it on eBay. And I see that before I see it on your store websites. So, I mean, you know, there is a way for you to leverage that. You know, and I think like when Lori's talking about these things, and Leanne, you know, I'm thinking about the tactical part about this is you're a store owner and all of a sudden you just made a list of 10 more things you have to remember. And so we're recommending books. I'm going to recommend Traction. I know many people have read this, but in Traction, there is a discipline called Delegate and Elevate. And so when we're talking about, you know, delegating and elevating, it's many times we will go to a team member and we say, okay, I have a young woman who just started working for us who is trying to get back to college to finish her degree in professional writing. So part of the reason she joined us was putting her in charge of blog. Many times as entrepreneurs, we say, hey, Susie, you go write the blog. And delegate and elevate means that you need to coach that relationship. You need to stay in contact with that relationship. So in something like that, where Leanne, great suggestion, I believe it was Leanne and Lori, forgive me if it was you, who talked about having content driven by your team as well. Don't just let them go do it and then just in a month go, oh my gosh, who wrote this? You know, give them coaching, use it as a coaching opportunity to bring that in. But so when we're talking about adding Etsy and eBay, find a team member, give them a commission. Yes, pay them to put it on there. You know, make a decision. I'm going to give them a commission of 20%, or I'm going to pay them for the hours to put it together, and I'm going to give them a commission of 5%. You know, you can do that as a yarn store, as a craft store, as a sewing store with smaller things. And, you know, I mean, the thing about it is it's not like putting the carrot out there and saying, run. What it's doing is it's saying, this might be a way that we can increase progress for our team. And I want to see you progress in this. And that process of elevate and delegate and elevate and delegate, I'm sure I'm saying it the wrong way, but you know, it's meaning bringing up your team members, but also bringing up yourself.
Perfect. So we'll kind of, with that, kind of move into the next topic. So thank you, Lori. Also, kind of the next question I wanted to ask, there's a new trend of younger people getting interested in quilting and needle arts lately. I know on average, according to statistics, quilters have gotten younger and younger over the last decade. How do you suggest business owners in the industry target kind of this new market of the younger generation getting into quilting?
I think that I'm going to bring it back to Jill and employees. It starts there that you hire the age demographic that you're trying to attract. That's really critical because it doesn't matter. Having had almost the 50 years, I will tell you that in my 20s, the customer would not come to me because I was 20, even though I was the person in charge. She would come to the gal next to me to answer the questions because she was in her 50s. And Ethel would turn around and say, well, we have to ask Lori that. And now as I've progressed through all the years and I'm in my 60s, I find myself, when I go to ask a question, I do exactly the same thing. I think it's human nature that you go and you ask the question of the like age where you feel the most comfortable. And so if you can hire all demographics, You'll attract new customers that way, especially with the word of mouth that happens with the employee and she's out and about and such. I also think that if you have that young voice online, there's an attraction there. I think that you can use the tools on any of the social media platforms. Having a younger voice that talks the lingo, and I wouldn't be the one doing it today, that helps attract as well. There's also other platforms, you know, TikTok, Snapchat, and I don't have the rest of them to tell. Maybe you could share, Michaela, where you go for social media.
Yeah. For me, I think probably the most prevalent, I'll be honest, TikTok is a little, I'm 26, so I'm not, I'm still young, but TikTok is kind of my brother's age. He's 20. That's a little bit younger, of the generation under me. But like, he's on it constantly. He's always on TikTok. But for me personally, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest are kind of the real big ones that I'm kind of consistently on. Instagram for sure. I'm always on Instagram. Just because I'm from a business standpoint, that's where a lot of the businesses that I personally tend to like post all of their content. So that's where I'm on. So that's definitely a big one. But TikTok definitely for the generation under me. And TikTok has a lot of how-to videos as well that like my brother he's constantly coming to me and saying, hey, I saw this thing on TikTok. I want to try it, you know, how to make a dollar store or something. I'm sorry, my cat he wants attention. He's always like, let's try this, or let's build this, you know, shelf because I saw somebody do it on TikTok. So it's definitely a good platform if you guys are thinking about doing like how-to videos on how to, you know, quilt a blanket or you know, do a certain kind of thing. So I agree, for the younger generation, definitely social media is a big thing right now.
I would think YouTube would be a good direction to go to with a younger person doing the presenting. And how-to is definitely going to get you the traffic.
Definitely.
And once they see that younger face, now it's going to lead back to your storefront as well as your e-commerce site.
Yeah.
I really respect what Lori is saying about age of employees. I think, you know, I think our employees are, most of our employees are under the age of 35. And I think it's definitely has something to do with how we recruit. And, you know, definitely there are a lot of people looking to get out of jobs that maybe aren't as creative. And I think you need to kind of navigate that one. I think that the tripping point for most of us is how much are they going to require to do, and I think those are other, you know, bigger picture pieces. But I guess really what I want to address is that we need to be aware, whatever age we are, there is an old mindset and there is a young mindset, and I've got 30-year-olds and 25-year-olds that talk more like 60-year-olds, and I have 60-year-olds that talk more like 30-year-olds.
Yes,
and you know,
absolutely.
And I think it's addressing this conversation, and I think it kind of goes back to looking at, you know, be open to Instagram. Instagram is huge. That's the biggest one that we're hearing from our people that are just getting into sewing. But even like finding new ways to serve up your classes or your content. You know, and I think YouTube has been really successful for us to be able to provide content that we send to people. Like, it's nothing unusual for my team, rather than to FaceTime somebody, and somebody sends us a message and says, how do I thread a needle, or I just bought a sewing machine, such and such. My team will put together a YouTube video, put it out there, and send a private link to that person, you know, to start that conversation. But I think, you know, when you look at it, and I mean, the industry has really been hit the last 10 years with, we all need to trend younger. Well, when I started in this business, my core employee, my core customer base was just retiring from their job. So they were in their late 50s. And, you know, those people have generated a lot of revenue for us. What we're looking at right now, people are retiring in their mid 40s now. And so there's an avenue of people that we're looking at that are going to be in the pipeline. But the other one is that mask making has brought out, I mean, we had about a dozen customers when we were shut down with that. We had a relationship with them that they literally could call us and say, now what do I do with this machine? I mean, we were selling sewing machines, putting them out on our curb along with mask cutting equipment and things like that. And we were coaching them, you know, by FaceTime if we could, wherever we could meet them. And, you know, and I think that relationship that every one of us on this call has had, we need to go back and we need to dissect that a little bit with all of our team and say, you know, these people came to us and how do we find them? But I'd also like to hear from Leanne, because I know she breaks this down by age a little bit more too on this topic. You know, before you add a big old to-do list, I mean, this is low-hanging fruit for us right now. So Leanne, could you give us a dive in about, you know, break out the different social medias we've talked about, you know, here?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're getting a little bit over, but I'll speak to just a few things. One is just really making sure you understand who your customer is first, and not just looking at only age. Look at what their behaviors are and what their needs are, right? We just talked really briefly when Lori mentioned, you know, a younger shopper, or you, Jill, mentioned your younger customers. Think about what those younger customers might need too, right? You might have a really busy working mom and she needs, you know, kits, things that are all put together for her. You know, you might have someone who's got a tight budget because they're paying off college debt. Think about, you know, reaching out to them in terms of affordability, you know, not just the number assigned to who that person is. Or like you said, Jill, some people are retiring earlier in their 40s and so on. So, you know, look at what they're looking for in terms of how do they utilize their free time. So I don't know if that really answers what your question is, Jill, but I kind of twisted a little bit. And then I just wanted to speak to one quick thing Michaela said about TikTok. I'm going to confess here, I'm 51 and I'm fully addicted to TikTok. The coronavirus just was, my daughter was into it and I'm like, oh, what is this cute little thing? And I watch it a lot. And you know, if you are interested in creating content for a channel like that, keep in mind that the algorithms will customize your audience. So if you're out there doing quilting tutorials, when people like your video or they're following your specific hashtags, they will continue to see that content that you're creating. They're not necessarily going to be showing your quilting tutorial to Michaela's 26-year-old brother. There won't be that mismatch because the algorithm is smart and the algorithm knows. And you might not have customers that are out there creating content. I've never made a TikTok in my life and I never will, but I'm a consumer. So I am on there watching all the creative channels and you know, again, back to that know, like, and trust funnel. I'm liking some of those brands and companies that I'm watching on TikTok. So you don't necessarily have to do TikTok. My overall advice on that would be video. Whether it's TikTok or YouTube or Facebook Live, we know definitively from the data that video content has greater eyeballs, greater views than any other content out there. So if you have the wherewithal to do video and you have limited time, think about fitting that in.
Perfect. Thank you so much for adding that. Definitely agree. Just to touch really quick, Jennifer asked, how are you recruiting younger employees? As a business of 8 employees, we offer slightly above minimum wage and no health insurance. So we attract retired women who are just looking for something fun to do. How do we find younger employees? Jill mentioned that recruiting companies have been great for her.
Yeah.
I would also suggest LinkedIn. I know everyone kind of my age, my friends all go to LinkedIn when they're looking for jobs or positions. Another huge thing for the younger generation is flexibility in schedules. Just, you know, a lot of people my age especially are still in school, or if they're not in school, they do have, you know, a full-time job that doesn't necessarily do what they need to do to supplement their income so that they don't have to have a second job. I personally have a second job, you know, so it's good to kind of have the flexibility of being able to allow them to work, you know, 3 hours in the evening or 3 hours in the morning before they have classes or before they have to go to their full-time job or when they're done at their full-time job or whatever. It doesn't not having health insurance available to them, if they're part-time, usually doesn't necessarily deter them, my friends at least, and my group of people, just because they typically either have health insurance still through, you know, like a family member. Like here in Kansas, I'm still on my mom's health insurance, because you can stay on your parents' health insurance till you're 27. So that's not a huge deterrent for a lot of them. A lot of my friends are still on their family's health insurance as well, or they get it through their full-time job. So definitely,
I would say, you know, to definitely to look at, when I said about recruiting companies, recruiting sounds really scary to small businesses. We've worked with a couple of them where they'll take a percentage of the first year wages, and that just did not work for us for obvious reasons. Because that's a big bite to have to do. We actually have gone to, we have a human resources company that's in the Midwest that recruits for us by the hour. Again, sounds scary to do, but when we started calculating what it was taking for us to navigate, and so they use ZipRecruiter, they use Indeed, they use LinkedIn. They do a really good job of fishing for us, and then they get it to that point where it's really reasonable for us to do when we figure out our time. And you know, we don't actually go after an age. To Michaela's point, it's a mindset. It's you know, talking about, I think we're forgetting right now, like I have a couple of applications on my desk right now from people that are in the healthcare industry that are looking to get out. And, you know, they're very well customer service trained, very, very well customer service and trained in the 2 hospitals in our area. And they're coming to us with job applications. So I mean, you know, the recruiters that we use are they're so incredibly reasonable. When I stop and think of how many hours I spend going, I wonder if I should put it out here, and I wonder if I should put it out there. It's a good investment. It's a very good investment.
Especially right now, a lot of people, you know, are looking for jobs with COVID. They've lost their job, or they just need to get out of whatever industry they're currently in, like Jill said. So that was a good point. But thank you again, Lori, for all of your expertise and knowledge on all of that with marketing. We're gonna, sorry you guys, we've kind of gone over, but we're gonna direct our last topic today to Leanne. You know, Henry Ford once said, a man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time. It doesn't really make sense. So where you see the most success when it comes to spending marketing, or where do you see the most success when it comes to spending marketing dollars? And what advice can you give business owners when it comes to kind of getting the most bang for their buck as far as marketing and spending that money?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we get it a lot from clients that we're starting to work with at the agency, because what we find is they've done what we call a mud up on the wall way of spending their budgets. And when they come to us, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm spending all this money and nothing's working, and I'm not getting ROI, and I don't really know where to spend my time and attention. And you know, we actually help them develop a strategy and goals and plans so that they can be a little bit more targeted in their budget spend. So I guess I would reiterate what you said, Michaela, is another mistake I see is people completely pull back on their budgets. You know, when the pandemic hits and people get really scared, I would say I understand that emotion, but I always quote Warren Buffett, who said that you need to be greedy when others are fearful. And I don't like the word greedy per se, but you get the concept, which is now is the time when everyone else is pulling back their budgets and everyone else is leaving the market. That is an opportunity for you to fill in the vacuum. And if you do spend your money strategically and effectively, you do have an opportunity to leapfrog in front of your competitors. So definitely keep that in the back of your mind. So one of the things we start with our clients is by making sure they really understand who their customer avatar is. And by customer avatar, I mean your target customer. Who are you trying to sell to? And one of the biggest mistakes I see again with clients is they'll answer that question by saying, well, I'm going to sell to everybody who wants to sew and everybody who wants to quilt and everybody, of course. And the answer to that, my response is always, no, you can't be all people, all things to all people. You really have to target. And if you can target and be specific about who your customer is and channel all your efforts to reaching that customer, you're going to be a lot more successful, and you won't feel like you're just throwing mud up on the wall everywhere, right? So really understand who your customer is and ignore the noise from everywhere else. Yes, you have a fabric shop and all your employees are skilled in teaching how to quilt. Well, I call it a squirrel. Don't see the squirrel of, oh, we're gonna teach people how to make garments and clothing. Yeah, you could probably do it, but you're gonna make more money if you focus on what you're really doing well, which is the quilting and where your resources are and your skill bases. So that's the first piece of advice. The other mistake I see a lot is people have no tracking in place whatsoever. I can't tell you how many clients come to our agency, and when I ask them, do you have your Google Analytics installed? They'll say, what? I don't even know what that is. So when you are spending money on Facebook, Instagram, if you're doing Google ads or you're doing really anything out there, make sure that you've got a feedback mechanism to measure your ROI through your statistics. At the very least, please install your Google Analytics so that you can see where are people clicking and linking through on your website. What keywords are they using to find your products and your brand? If you are spending money on Facebook or advertising, go back and look at your posts where you've promoted or specific advertising, see where are you getting the most hits? What is driving the traffic? Another thing on Google Analytics that we see a lot, people don't realize the potential of Pinterest, for example. Oh, I don't do Pinterest. I don't have time for that. Well, if you really put your foot on the gas with Pinterest and you do a great job with it, what we find is you go into your Google Analytics and you can see Pinterest is one of the top referrers to your website. So if you don't have any analytics set up, then you are going to just spend money and spend money and spend money and not have any idea what that return on investment or the ROI is for your efforts. So I guess the other last thing I would just say is consistency is key. Again, the trying to do all things for all people. I know Lori said earlier that she apologized, that the bad news is you are going to have to be in all the places, everywhere. And I agree with her that you do need to have a presence in the places that count, but do make sure that you're being consistent. If you post a flurry of posts and then you disappear for a while, or you have some great blog content and then you drop off, and you do 10 videos and then no one ever sees you again, that is not going to get you where you want to go. So pick the things that you can do well and do them really well. Learn how to excel at those, and I think you'll have a much better outcome with your spend.
Well, thank you, Leanne, and thank you, Jill and Lori. We appreciate all you guys coming on, just kind of sharing your expertise, and just, answering all these questions and taking the time out of your day to join us to kind of help with these next steps in these kind of unprecedented times. I'm sorry that we ran a little bit over, everybody, but we are going to open it up for questions now. So if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and put that down here in the chat. If you don't have any questions, here on the screen, you can see a way to get a hold of me, as well as Wolfgang. He's our other CSM. If you guys have any questions for us here on the POSIM side or anything. And then I did post links to Jill, Leanne, and Lori's websites in the chat as well, in case you guys need to get a hold of them or want to look at their businesses any further. Thank you so much, Terry. And thank you to everybody who joined today. So we'll just leave it open here for a couple more minutes in case anybody has any questions, and then we'll close it out. Like I said, this was recorded, so if anybody wants the recording, we will have it here later on, and you can just reach out to me if you'd like a copy of that recording. We just will have to edit it and everything here in a couple minutes. So
Thanks, Michaela.
Everybody, we appreciate you all coming out. All right, it looks like people are kind of dropping out and we don't have as many questions. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of leave it for today. And then I'll take all these chats and get people copies of the recordings who requested them. And then, like I said, if you guys need a copy afterwards, you can email me, michaela.hines@posim.com, or you can email sales@posim.com if that is easier. I know my email is kind of long and my name's a little bit difficult to spell. So, but thank you guys for coming, and we hope you guys all have a great day.
Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. We'll make sure everyone gets a copy of the recorded webinar. We have your email addresses.